Hello, I'd like to just take the time to thank the viewers for tuning into this to watch this amazing panel where Sharon and her will be talking to Maly, Stephanie, Peter, and Choua about the ups and downs of interracial relationships. I would like to remind our viewers that these are our panel's own experience and their opinion, and you do not have to agree with them, but please give them the respect for sharing their own experience and opinion.
Thanks, Doua. Thanks for putting this together. I guess we just start by having the panel basically tell us about their background. Tell us about yourself and your partner and their ethnic background.
Well, my name is Maly. I am Hmong, and I am married to my husband, who is Black. We've been together for I've lost so many years, but been together for a while, and we have 4 children together.
Hi everyone, my name is Choua and I'm Hmong. My fiance is Hispanic. We've been together for 8 years. And yeah, so I'll start with that.
Hey, I'm Peter, Hmong. I've been married to my wife, who is Black, since October, actually. So, yeah, newlywed. And yeah, we'll just go on from there.
Hello, I am Stephanie. I am Hmong American. I am married to a beautiful Black woman, and we've been together for 9 years, and we've been married for 2. So that's my intro right there.
All right. And I'm Sharon again, and I'm Hmong American, and I'm married to a white guy, and we've been together for, I want to say this year is going to be 18 years. So I just want to guys start out with hearing your meetup stories. How did you meet your partner, and how did you, I guess got together and decided to get married and fell in love?
So me and my wife actually, we met in high school because we were mutual friends with people, and then I used to work in theater for my school after I graduated because I used to be like a big theater geek, and so yeah, I started mentoring students at Maly, and then me and her ran into each other because she became kind of one of the students that I was mentoring. But after we had already graduated and everything, me and her ran into each other on Twitter, and I posted a picture of myself, and then she retweeted it. And I don't really like how people talk forever. I don't really do that. I would rather just see you and be around you because physically it's a little bit more intimate that way. So I instantly asked her if I could take her out on a date, and that was the start of my happiest moment of my life.
What was the tweet? Or if you don't mind.
I'm very open, so don't ask me if you don't mind, because I don't mind at all. So it's gonna be a little explicit, but basically I posted a picture of myself, I'm cute, I'm swaggy.
And Southern, so it wasn't explicit.
And she's a Southern belle, she's from Mississippi.
So the way I talk.
So when she talk, it's different from how we talk, because we're California bears. Well, I am at least. And so she was like, oh, I'd hit that. I'd hit that, and the terminology is you sexy, you cute, I want to talk to you, whatever. And so when she said that to me, it was crazy because I never thought she was gay. So when she finally addressed, because that's how it is for us gay Hmong girls. We don't know who's gay. We're just gonna let you come talk to us. We're gonna figure it out from there, So when she finally came up to me, I just had the courage to talk because I've been having the biggest crush on her since we were around each other in high school. But I never said anything because she's straight. I thought she was straight, and I don't like to disrespect straight women by invading their privacy and asking them all these questions to see if I can convert them, So I just let her come to me, which she did. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how we met.
I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota, so reside up in the Midwest. And my story's kind of long, but I'll try to keep it short. Just an FYI, I do have animals, so if you see my cat crawling or my dog barking, I do apologize. So it started with it's a social media thing too. So my wife, she added me on Facebook because she thought I was somebody she went to school with, because apparently we all look alike, right? So I didn't talk to her for like a year or so. And then one day I was driving home from work. I was recording, and it was some guy who was about to like suicide jump off a bridge, and I was commenting that like, hey, if you guys are coming down, Highway 35, please be careful because there's something going on. So she commented on there because she knew what was going on. And then I was like, oh, I forgot I saved this chick as a friend. So, we was hanging out with the family and I was drinking and, liquid courage. So I was like, yo, let's hit up let's see who she is. So kind of like Stephanie, I slid into her DM like, yo, what's your favorite color? She said it was, I swear she said it was yellow, purple, and brown. I'm like, all right, cool. So I should wear those colors on our first date. She's like, okay, like I'm gonna give this dude a shot. So she's like, all right, so we started dating, we started going out. Our first date was on a snowy night in Minnesota, and we went bowling, played laser tag and everything. And she thought I was your typical nerdy Asian, and then she found out real quick that I wasn't your typical nerdy Asian. So we started connecting from there, and then she helped me go through college and everything because I was just working warehouse job, dead end jobs. I was getting tired of it. So she was like, hey, why don't you go back to school? I'm like, all right, cool. Like I've always wanted to cook. Let's go back to school. Went to school, got my St. Paul College and got my culinary degree, did the whole chefing thing. And then fast forward to the future, on the day I was gonna propose to her, I think it was after Easter, if I'm not mistaken, but we had a busy night at the restaurant that day. So my chef invited us back to his place to go hang out. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna go hang out with them. She's like, okay, cool. Just make sure you come back home safe. We started, remind you, I worked in the morning shift. So I've been working since 8 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't stop drinking until like, I don't know, 4:30 in the morning. So I decided to go home. And prior to that, I was gonna propose to her right after Easter, and I was telling her mom, I'm like, "Hey, look, I'm gonna propose to your daughter. Can I have your blessing?" Both of the parents said yes, and I told the mom, I'm like, "Hey, look, let's trick her. I'm gonna pretend that I got into trouble, and you're gonna play along with it because I want to kind of surprise her." I fell asleep at a red light. I woke up, and there was a cop there knocking on my door, and I actually got in trouble. I ended up going to detox. I called her from the detox. And I was like, hey, look, you think you can come get me? And she started freaking out. So she came and got me, but she called her mom too. And her mom thought this was a part of the trick. So her mom was playing along like, oh no, what happened to Peter? Oh no, we should get him out. And then she found out that I really got locked up. And then, they bailed me out. I got in the kitchen. I got on the knees and I proposed to her. I'm like, hey, look, today's been a crazy ass day, but I want you to know that I love you. And, I proposed to her, got on her knees. She said yes. So, a year goes by and, we're still prepping and everything. And then we'll get into this later, but the whole family and, her and everything with boundaries and everything, we started bumping heads. So we end up going our separate ways. And, my heart was broken. So after a whole bunch of things and being separated, we actually found our way back to each other because we decided that maybe it was best for us to take a break. And now when we came back around the second time, we started putting God in the center of everything, and He drew us back together. And she went to work one day, came home. I had the whole living room just kind of spread out, got the candles lit all the way. She came in and I proposed to her right there. And then pandemic came along because our wedding was supposed to happen in the pandemic, so I was like, ooh, not all my family members support me, and the pandemic is the perfect reason to be like, hey, look, you're not invited because of the pandemic. So we used that as an excuse because there was only like 40 people in our wedding, because of COVID. So after all that, we got married and here we are today. I don't have any kids yet, but the future, I'm still young, so the future is still there. So yeah, that's my story with my wife.
Well, my story is not as, crazy or fun like that, but I basically met my fiance in college, actually my last year of college. So he got really lucky. So I live here in LA now, but we actually went to college in Sacramento and we did a show together. We were paired as dance partners. And it was really nice, because like it was my last year, I was so ready to graduate, and just move on, plan what's next. in my life, I was definitely not expecting to like fall in love or anything like that because it was towards the end of the year. But yeah, so we had a class together too, even though he didn't really notice me in class because I'm pretty petite. I'm pretty petite, and so he doesn't notice me or anything, not until we would pair as partners. And then we dance together, we rehearse like crazy, we see each other all the time, and we just kind of started hanging out, you know, and being friends and stuff like that. And then he was only, I think he had like one more year left before he can graduate. So I ended up just staying in Sacramento because we were already dating and stuff. Stayed in Sacramento, wait for him to finish school, kind of save up and stuff, and came down to LA together. So now we live together, even though we're not married yet, which is another topic, you know, moving out of the house and not married. But I'm happy with it, you know. I'm proud that I did that, you know. Yeah, so that's basically kind of how we met. It's the funny thing, I guess, or the fun thing was he actually proposed on the stage that we met. So he proposed back and at Sax Day on the stage that we met, which was crazy because you know, we had this conversation of like, you know, are we going to get married or is it more like we're comfortable? You know, we don't need to do all that. And you know, I was like, okay, you know, we've been together for like 6 years and stuff. So it's fine. Like, we don't have to get engaged. There's no crazy commitment, you know. But eventually he kind of proposed, planned all that with all my sisters. And I have like 7 sisters. So they all kind of helped him, you know, and blindfolded me to go into the theater and everything. Yeah, but that's kind of how we got engaged back there. So he did a pretty good job. And yeah, that's basically my story. It's pretty short, but it was fun.
So I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, neighbors to Minnesota. My husband and I, we used to work at our library. We used to have a job together at the library. We worked there for, I think the first time I met him, I had a love and first sight moment with him. He didn't, and so I had to, you know, like wait around for him. But at the same time, I had to try to convince myself that, you know, you should not be dating a Black guy. It's against Hmong culture. And so I just couldn't get over that point. And so maybe like 2 years later, he came around and asked me out on a date and all that stuff. And then it went from there. And then I had got pregnant while we were dating, and my parents did not know at that time. And they were, you could say, very mad about the whole situation. We'll get into that later. But fast forward, 4 kids down the road, we are happily still together, and we look forward for many more years together.
I'll just share my story really quickly. I'm from Minnesota as well. I'm from St. Paul, Minneapolis, but I moved to New York about 18 years ago, basically. And I met my husband online, the very old-fashioned way of online dating. And at the time, it was like pretty new, so you know, kind of worried about, you know, what you're gonna get when you meet people online. But it was perfect. Like Brandon basically helped me discover the city because I didn't know anything about New York. And he had already lived here for about a year. And so it was just fun exploring New York with him. We fell in love, and 4 years later, we got married. And we are both artists, so we choose not to have kids. And that is a very hard fact for my parents to absorb. But yeah, been here ever since. I know that when you first start dating a person outside of your culture that who's not Hmong or not even Asian, because I used to date a Lao guy, my parents had a really hard time with it. I mean, it wasn't that they were not allowing it, but I think my mother said to me once, like, you know, Asians at least care about their family and white people don't. Like, that's a thought and a prejudice that they had. So her concern was that if I married a white guy, he wasn't going to care about our family. And I mean, he's obviously proved them wrong. He like loves my family so much, and my mom loves him like crazy. She checks in on him more than she checks on me. She's always telling me, I hope you're treating Brandon right. I'm like, wait, aren't you supposed to worry about him treating me right? She's like, you're too bossy. Nobody pushes you around. I'm like, fine. Fair enough. So I just want to hear your stories about when your family and your friends met, your Hmong family and Hmong friends, or other friends who, you know, if they had any reservations or any, you know, initial kind of like prejudices that you guys had to overcome together?
So I'll start with my mom first, because I think that's the most interesting one. So a week before I was gonna date my wife, I was talking to my mom. I was like, hey, how would you feel if I started dating, a Kidu person, which is, a translation of Hmong to American or English is, a black person. And she says, "What's all die? Which means you want to die. you know? And I'm like, because I'm the oldest, I'm a rebel too. I'm like, all right, bet. I'm about to bring her. So a week later, I asked her out and I was like, hey, mom, brought my girlfriend home. She goes, what? I'm like, yeah. So then I go through the door first, and then the door is halfway cracked open. So then she peeks her head out, and my mom sees her head only. And my mom kind of just, her eyes just goes, and then she kind of just looks at her. She doesn't say anything. So, I bring her in and we're sitting on a couch and she's talking to my mom. This whole time she's thinking that's my sister because my mom had me at such a young age too. And it was an interesting meet. I don't think my mom was quite ready for it, even though I told her I was gonna do it. And then for my family, like all the young people that I hung out with, everybody was cool with it because,
Oh, Peter, I
interracial
think you're
dating.
freezing up on us.
Am I good or?
No, you're good. I think Sharon, you're freezing up.
Mm.
So with my family, because interracial has kind of been in my family too. It's nothing really new. My family dated all kinds of people. So with my family, they accepted her with open arms. They did the whole, oh hey, you should come drink with us. And she's like, okay. So they got her drunk, and that's kind of their way of saying welcome to the family. Yeah, the family accepted her with open arms. Friends accepted her with open arms. It was just my parents that kind of had a hard time with it, but we eventually work our way around it. So
I got pretty lucky because when I met my fiance, we were friends first. So I introduced him as a friend to the family and my friends first. And then we kind of got to know each other more. And that's when I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start dating this guy. My parents were okay with it. They didn't really give me a hard time. I was like the first one that brought home a different race, to meet them and everything. But I was definitely not the first one to date outside the race in my family. I had an older sister who was already dating like different race boyfriends. She just never brought them home or introduced them to the family. Um, but my parents actually didn't really give me a hard time. They say they won't stop me from loving anyone, as long as I know that's the right person for me. So I was very surprised by that because my dad is very old fashioned and very traditional. But when it comes to, I guess, like that type of love or anything like that, and they can see that he's the way he talks, even though he doesn't speak like Hmong, they could tell he's like, a genuine person and everything. So they didn't judge him that bad, to be honest. I think it also helps because I think before I dated my fiance, I was with a Hmong guy. I actually dated a Hmong guy for 6 years. And he was around and they kind of saw how that relationship was too. How it was it was good, but it was rocky. And so they know that, okay, regardless whoever you end up with or who you want to be with, we're not going to judge you as long as, they're not gangsters or bad people. So I got really lucky with my parents. They didn't give me a hard time. And then my siblings, they were all really sweet too, very supportive. And now, like, it would be even, they wouldn't judge me if I marry him because, like I said, I have an older sister and she's actually married to a Hispanic. And I have like a niece and a nephew that's mixed. So I am very happy that I'm not the first one, to do that. But so that'll make it easier for me for sure. But yes, I was very fortunate. My parents didn't really give me a hard time. So
my mom was the same way as Peter. Before I was gonna tell her that I was gonna move out or especially with a black guy, I did ask her what she thought about me dating a black guy. And of course do you want to die? Don't do that. The family's gonna Moua or lose face and all that stuff. And she will kind of threaten me, like, if you do that, then you're not a part of the family anymore. But it just happened that way. I think that led me to just packing up my clothes and just leaving at that point. Um, but once they saw that my husband was very caring and took care of me and took care of the kids, that was their way of accepting him, like by his actions. Like, okay, so he's not the typical Black guy, or with their prejudices, they were able to put that aside and like see from their point of view of how Black men treated women. So my siblings were okay with them. Friends were okay. It was just my parents and uncles and aunts that gave me a problem. That was it. I always tell my husband that if we ever get a divorce, I'm gonna find another Black guy, and because I just love the family traditions that Black people have, because they're so close knit, and I wish Hmong families were like that. Like, because I wish that I was able to talk to my mom without having her judge me or anything like that. So
First of all, I just want to congratulate all the people that are dating Black people in here. Not that I hate anybody that doesn't date Black people, but I'm so proud of you guys. Oh my gosh. Because I really thought I was alone, you guys. I thought I was alone. But anyways, when it comes to the younger folks, like my cousins, they all knew. Nobody really ever hated, like, or gave my wife anything. I think one of the biggest issues was like, I am the first person to ever bring a Black person home. Don't get me wrong, like the OGs, they took a long time to get used to it. They would make a lot of like, underlying comments and say little things like, you need to try to go find you a husband, and you need to go vow, yeah. I'm like, I'm not that person. But for me, I think it was just a situation of like, they don't know. So you kind of have to just like, you have to teach them, and I think that's one of my biggest things is it wasn't one, I had two obstacles to go over. I had obstacles to go over that I was gay. That was the biggest thing. The fact that I was gay alone was already a crisis. That's a big, red light in the whole culture.
Have you ever taken your wife to your mom's cemetery? Like, have you experienced
Yes.
that?
Now, so you know how we're shaman, or most people are shaman. She's like an African shaman herself. So I can't really have her go to the um burial ground. Now she did go. She has seen my mother's stone. She's been there. She went when my dad passed to bury him, and my brother when he passed. So she's been around my family. Yeah.
It took a minute for you.
It took a minute. It took a minute for my dad too. Yeah, it did, because my dad he's a very important person when it comes to my King clan. He didn't shove the Hmong culture down our throats, but he did not like to look bad in front of people. I will say that my parents were actually pretty Americanized. They didn't ever really tell me like to not follow my dreams, or I mean they did, but they were more like supportive of certain things. Yes, it was hard for them to accept my wife. I really don't think that my dad had any hate towards her because she was Black, though. It was more so because I'm gay. Like that was the biggest.
It's so fascinating because I think that a lot of times parents in general, they can only absorb like so much, conflict at any time. So it is interesting that they do compartmentalize and prioritize, different concerns. So I just wanted to transition from, basically we're always concerned about our mothers and about the women in our lives, but the Hmong culture is very patriarchal, and it is definitely difficult as living in a Hmong American lifestyle to kind of follow some of the patriarchal systems. But I'm wondering for Maly and Choua and Stephanie, and I know Steph has already kind of mentioned this, but just the idea of like your fathers struggling with this. And I feel like our uncles, for some reason, have a lot to say about things like this too, because they feel like your husband is going to be your representative in the Hmong culture. And if they're not Hmong, then, kind of affects your connection to the community a little bit more. So I wonder if you guys wanted to speak on that.
for me, I feel like it's no different than being a Ya in the Hmong culture, because once you marry someone, you're just no longer part of the family, basically. So my dad, my parents, they don't call me to go help them with parties and stuff. I don't know if they're still embarrassed about my husband, but or like I don't
Mm,
think they're embarrassed for themselves, but they're embarrassed because my other family will be there.
mm,
So they just want to protect me from that. But my uncles and aunts, like we're not included in
mhm.
their parties or anything anymore. I think it's because he's just black now. It's weird because we're allowed to go to, like, I'm very open to anybody wanting to get to know my husband. But I know that when one of my uncles invite me, like the whole family is there, but it's just the same uncles that um they want to get to know him. And then there's some
Mm.
uncles who just sit back in the corner. I'm like, if you want us to be a part of your life, let us be a part of your life. If not, then I don't mind either. It's pretty sad, but I don't want to put my husband in that position of trying to earn love from someone that's not willing to give it.
Well, when you have, I mean, when you had your babies, like, did you have a kite? Did you invite them? And like, how are you?
No, we didn't do a kite. My mom said that they never did that for us growing up, so I
Mm,
shouldn't do that for my family either. So, like, we do birthday parties, and I do invite the whole family. It's just the same people that
mm,
turns up all the time.
mm.
So it's pretty sad, but telling my kids like, oh, they're your cousins too, but they're like, oh, but who are they? It's just still a hard and still a learning time right now.
Oh, I imagine so. Also, with your children, trying to connect to your family. I mean, how are you able to create relationships there then?
Some of my uncles, they don't allow their kids to play with mine.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's just very sad. Like if they'll whisper to the kids like, oh, play with everybody but them. It's just very hurtful. So like I don't know what to tell my children. It's just I don't want to tell them like, hey, you are different. It's just you just don't need that negativity. And I can't make up excuses or stories on their behalf.
how does that affect your husband? I mean, like, I'm sure both of you are very sad and disappointed
Mhm.
that one half of their, you know,
Right.
family is not participating in their lives. I mean, how do you navigate around that and, still make them feel included or part of the home community?
Yeah, so we just stick with the ones that are accepting of us. So like we'll go to hang out with them or do gatherings with them instead. It's just unfortunately it's not the whole family. It's just I don't know how to say it. Like you could just tell that it's in the air, the hate and the
Mm.
eyes, the stares. Like for example, if we go to a party, they always come up to me like, "Oh, is your husband's parents still together?" Like they
Oh.
have this prejudice of Black people's parents not together. They're just single
Mm.
mothers and
I guess there's always been this talk in the community that, we have to be very vigilant in helping offer Hmong culture to our children, and
right.
like teaching them Hmong ways and,
Mhm.
constantly like uh, basically introducing Hmong culture to our children.
Right.
So, I mean, how do you respond to that in terms of like teaching your children Hmong ways? I don't know if you're Christian or animist, but like, like how you integrate Hmong culture
Right.
into children's lives.
Well, it was my husband's idea. We started that with giving my children Hmong names.
Mhm.
So that is on their birth certificate. So that's a start. So when they go to school, they'll tell their friends and family or friends and classmates, like, oh, I'm Hmong. My name is, like, for example, Ajong. And
Mm.
they have to tell the kids or the teachers what their name means. And we do a lot of Asian cooking in our house. So they love Hmong food. I've tried like teaching them Hmong dance, like have them geared towards that cultures, Hmong clothes and all that stuff. But usually
Mm.
for the culture, I rely on my mom to keep speaking with them or just teaching them. But for my girls especially, I don't enforce the nya duties on them. Like they're just kids. Um, I don't make my 4-year-old or 5-year-old get up early to start washing dishes or anything. Like I think my oldest is 13. She's gonna be 13 and she only knows how to make ramen noodles. I was like, she'll learn eventually. She wasn't like me, like learning how to cook at 7 years old. Like
Yeah.
it's
Well, do they understand Hmong, like the language?
A little bit. They understand it, but they don't speak it.
Yeah.
So that's on my part, but I'm not that great at Hmong either. So
Yeah, I know that that's been a struggle for, there's a lot of Hmong Americans that are living in New York. And because there's not a big Hmong community, they don't have a lot of opportunity to be exposed to the language. And I've also suggested to them that they listen to Hmong radio, just because like kids absorb language through, just conversationally, but to hear language, is usually
Right.
very helpful. And then I guess I wonder for your husband, like how is this affecting his relationship to Hmong culture if he feels so kind of like left out and kind of, unfortunate and taken out by your family?
The families that we get to be with, like my intermediate family, like my parents are traditional, so he gets that. Like we have some of my siblings are Christians, Catholics, shamans too, so he gets to explore everything. So I don't think he's necessarily losing out on the Hmong culture. Like he loves it. He loves the food, everything about it. So like I'm just still trying to convince him to wear Hmong clothes. That's it.
It's hard to convince just normal Hmong people to wear Hmong.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
a tough one.
Mhm.
Well, I guess, Choua, I wanted to check in with you as well about your situation with, the patriarchy. We always talk about it.
Yeah.
But like with your relationship to your parents and especially your father, now that you've married outside of outside of the Hmong culture.
My parents made it very clear that once I'm out of the house, I'm kind of like, their people in a sense, right?
Mm,
Just because I'm no longer, because it's not like I'm the son and stuff like that, and the power go next to me, in that type of way. It's more of like, okay, I'm out of the house now. They will consider me and stuff, but they didn't. I guess they couldn't really ask much of my fiance anyway.
mhm,
Just because of the language barrier and just the lack of not knowing much of like the culture or the traditions.
mhm,
I hope it's not going to be anything crazy. I mean, I haven't seen them treated because, like I said, I have an older sister who's actually married to a Hispanic, and they
mm,
haven't really treated him any different, than the
okay.
way, yeah. They've been
Okay.
kind of okay with him. I mean, they expect him to help, when there's like jingle bells and all that stuff, eat 30, things like
Yeah.
that. They expect him to help, lend a hand and stuff. But for my fiance, they're kind of honestly keeping their distance.
Mm,
They're not, yeah, they're actually not very saying much because I think they're going back to the expectations like you're a woman, you're a daughter. So once you're married,
mhm,
you're out of the house, you know.
yeah.
You kind of like become their people.
I don't know, how does your fiance, I guess, how are his feelings about, staying connected to your culture, especially now that he's going to become, the man of the house and going to be the voice for your family. I mean, is he aware of like kind of the responsibilities or any of that?
He's aware of it. I mean, he tries to kind of learn the Hmong language and everything that he try to take part in the traditions that he can. We're
Mm,
actually vegetarian, so that alone is already like a big thing, because that's kind of how like, you build your relationship. That's kind of how you, right, come together and everything and
mm,
break bread. So that alone already was already kind of hard. So you try to take part in other ways that he can, whether it be like wearing the Hmong clothes or
yeah,
being present at the events, and things like that, or
mhm,
try to learn the language in the best way he
yeah.
can. But he's honestly not very bothered that. I mean, he's gonna try to be a good example, but he's more
Mhm.
concerned about like me and him.
I mean, ideally, that should be what it's about, anyways, right?
Right.
I'm curious, Peter, for you, like now that you're married and you still have a role in your family, like there are expectations of you, and like you have the responsibility to kind of bring your wife into the Hmong culture and the Hmong community. I mean, how do you think that will affect you in the way that you raise your children potentially, or lead your family?
These are things that you have to kind of talk about too, because if you're gonna spend the rest of your life with, your partner, you got to make sure your partner knows what they're going into, vice versa. And we don't have any kids yet, but we talk about it all the time, like how am I going to teach my kids that they're not just half Hmong and half Black, they're 100% of both,
Mm,
So, we talk about it, and honestly, the best way to do it is just to really educate them, like hey, look, this you're Hmong, this is who we are, and you're also Black, and this is who we are. You take what you want out of it, because I will say I love our Hmong culture, and it's a beautiful culture, but there's so many flaws into it, regarding of, I'm sure you guys know already, masculinity, nya duties and all that shit, like I take what I believe in, and instilled it in them. Same thing with the Black culture, and stuff that I don't agree with, I try to explain to them, why I don't agree with it. And I know it's easier said than done because I don't have any kids yet, but it's just a preparation stage for it. And it's kind of how me and my wife, we talk about things too, because, in the beginning, as much as I didn't want to be that, masculinity Hmong guy who was bringing my wife, like, hey, you're expected to just, wash dishes. I didn't realize I was doing it. I was doing it by default because my whole life, that's all I've ever seen. So like, it's all I know, my dad taught me that, you want to be the best bow ever. So you go over and you just, I don't know, go straight to the kitchen and cut meat, see what they need help with, because my wife's side, they freaking love me. When I'm over there, the bow duty just kicks in because that's what my dad taught me. So, my father-in-law is always like, I love my son, he's great, man. Like he does everything for us. And with my wife, I would bring her to family events, and just like everyone in this group right now, they all get stares, people were kind of like the stares. Eventually the stares didn't bother me anymore because I learned to kind of just cope with it. But, the whispers and the energy in the room and the vibe, it just goes down and you're like, yo, this is kind of bullshit. So, back to the whole, I was telling her like, hey, why don't you just go in there and like wash dishes or see if they need help in the kitchen. And she doesn't know anything, so she's trying to be nice because she's a sweetheart. So she goes into the kitchen like, hey, I don't know you guys, but do you guys need help with anything? And everybody would, it's because it's mainly women. The woman will look at her and be like, no, we're okay, we don't need any help. And it's weird because they make her feel like an outsider. And one thing I've been noticing about every single conversation so far is that Hmong people love to stay in our bubble. We love to take the culture of everything, but we just love to stay in our bubble. And with that, she used to get so pissed off at me. She'll be like, I'm just gonna go in the car and wait. I'm like, why? Like, we're having a great time. She's like, no, you're having a great time, I'm not. Everybody's looking at me funny, people are whispering. Nobody wants my help, nobody's talking to me. So she would sit in the car, and we would just used to just, she would express her feelings to me because she wasn't afraid to tell me how she was feeling. And I had to learn that in a relationship, it takes two people. It's not just a one way, how traditional Hmong men would be. It's two way. You have to make sure that you have to make sure that you both are on the same page with each other, and the respect and the love has to be on the same level. So we started talking. I'm like, hey, look, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was doing this to you, and I thought that going into this relationship, I got rid of all this shit, but turns out I was doing it by default, not even knowing it. So we agreed that for my love for her, I wouldn't put her through anything that she wouldn't want to go to. So if we go to family event, I give her the option. I'm like, hey, I don't really know these family, but I know some of them. I'm gonna go hang out. Do you want to come? And she's like, no. I'm like, cool. We'll go over. And they're like, hey, where's Nya? I'm like, oh, Nya's at home chilling. Like she don't feel like coming. But if it's like a close family members, because I have really close family members who love her with open arms, and she'll be like, yeah, let's go. We'll go and we'll party with them. So it's just about setting that boundary of like, I'm willing to accept this and I won't accept this. And I'll be like, okay, I trust you. Same thing with your culture. This doesn't feel right to me. So she won't push that on me. She'll be like, okay, out of respect and love for you, I won't do that to you,
Yeah, I mean, and also I have to say, like, this is kind of a difficult transition, but I mean, I imagine, Stephanie, you would have it kind of double fold because you're also in the LGBTQ community, and there's been, it's so unfortunate that we already have like so many biases against us. First strike, you're a woman. Second strike, you're Asian. Third strike, you're no longer married in your own culture, and you have to, you're kind of a free agent, I like to call it. But also being in LGBTQ community, how's that affected all this, I guess, rise in bullying and anti-Asian?
Me personally, I really don't get fazed by it because I understand the person that I'm made to be. I think that I'm supposed to educate people on how to live this lifestyle if they want to live this lifestyle. I think that's my role when it comes to that particular situation you're speaking of. So I'm not afraid. Like I said, I'm a very open-minded person. So if somebody wants to be educated by me, come ask me the right questions. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm here, I want people to learn more about who we are as a people, not just me. I want people to be able to understand like that it's not just one track minded things. You know what I'm saying? We're living in a world now where everybody can live their life. And why wouldn't we want that to happen? So for me, yes, of course I live in fear. Of course I have a lot of things that is set in the back of my mind, but I do understand my role, and I understand that I have to be courageous right now because it only takes the people that understand what's going on right now to stand up to the situation.
Definitely. And I kind of want to close out the conversation in general with a positive message. Like, what have you learned? What do you feel has been your greatest advantage of being in a cross-cultural relationship?
If I had to give a last thought just on like, interracial dating, honestly, like it's great, like do it, man. Like I was saying earlier, get out your bubble, quit being in the tiny little bubble, because when you're stuck in a bubble, you don't see what's on the outside. You're stuck in this little bubble where like everything has to go exactly like this. And now you're like, okay, I'm stuck, but now I'm repeating the same cycle my mom, my dad did, all because you're too afraid to step out. And when you're stepping out, it's just kind of like, I'll use food as an example because my life revolves around food. So if you're just eating Hmong food all the time, Hmong food is great, Like, to say Hmong food ain't great, you're probably never had good Hmong food before. But you're eating Hmong food all the time. Eventually, you're gonna want a burger. You got to step out and get that taste of that burger, or you got to step out and taste the hot dog or the pizza. Now, to just be stuck on Hmong food only and never try pizza is kind of like you're not really living your life. So my last, kind of like my way out would be like, share a meal with someone who's different and talk about the things that bothers you. Food always brings people together and create memories for everyone. Just go in it with an open mind, and it's okay to disagree.
Thank you. And Maly, would you like to add any of your insights or lessons from your relationship?
I'm a go-getter, so I'm always like, do it. Even if you're gonna get in trouble, even if it's right or wrong, just do it. No one's gonna judge you. You just gotta learn how to be happy because you're in charge of your happiness. And if that's like being in an interracial relationship, it's nothing wrong with it. It's as a matter of fact, it opens your eyes more to different cultures, traditions, and it just makes life more beautiful. So just do it.
And Choua?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everyone is saying for sure. I feel like being in a mentor relationship for like 8 years now, I've learned to be more patient, and understanding. If you choose to, like Peter was saying, stay in your bubble, you'll always be judging or looking at people a certain way, or it's always about me or whatever, right? But once you start being more open-minded and you be patient, you listen to others, and like Maly was saying, yeah, just go and get it. Just give it all, go and get it. Don't be scared, and if it's meant to be, it'll be, and if it's not, then you start over with something else.
And Steph, I just kind of want to circle back. I love your energy, and I really appreciate the positivity. You've probably seen so much, hate on every level. That must have taught you so much.
I think that for me, it's kind of like I'm more. It's just like my wife said though. For me, I struggle having to fit in with the Hmong community. I think that's my biggest dilemma. I have a lot of people like, oh, you need to rap Hmong more, but it's like I told my auntie when I came out to my aunts, because my aunt was actually the first person that came out too. I talked to my aunt because obviously my mom's not here no more, and she was the next best thing, It's like I told her, you guys can't expect to immigrate to a new country and then you're just putting, it's like, it's like making fried chicken. You're lathering me in egg and flour of American culture. You're lathering me in it, and then you expect me to just be this perfect, beautiful little Hmong girl at the end of the day when this American world is very chaotic. You know, I mean, we don't even get taught how to write our name on a checkbook in our classes. You know, we don't even get taught how to deposit money in economics class. We don't get none of that. So already we're coming into a very corrupted world with corrupted rules, with corrupted people. And then you're bringing our immigrant parents and our immigrant people, our immigrant African Americans, immigrant Mexicans, immigrant everything to come build up this country. And then we get shitted on. You know, it's a slap in the face. I think for me, it's more so the fact that I am trying to fit in with the Hmong community. And I think for me, I think the biggest thing that I would say with my children, because this has been a big thing, because me and my wife are trying. And, you know, for us, it's, you know, it's a process, you know what I'm saying? But we're going to get it, you know, and I think that the best thing to do is to start with your family, you know. If my kids go out into the world and they get bullied or something, understand that my child will come out the better person in that situation, because I'm going to teach them how to correct that, you know, their actions, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it starts in your home. But will I sit here and allow my kids to be weak? No. Will I sit here and allow my kids to think that there's only one way to handle things? No. I mean, I'm not going to go out and tell my kids, hey, kill somebody if they fucking attack you. I'm sorry for my language. But I will tell them, you know, stand up for yourselves, but understand that you have these type of, you know, these type of rules to also fall back on. I mean, and then when it comes to the kids getting attacked because they're his two moms, you know, how do I handle that? I tell my kids, and I have a relationship with my kids, because the biggest problem in Hmong culture is that our parents don't talk to us.
I mean, I feel like this conversation is helpful for everyone. I mean, just because I think coming together and being, you know, open to new ideas and new cultures is like the linchpin to solving all these problems, right? If everyone could just like fall in love with somebody outside of the race, then they can have a little bit more compassion. But I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. And as we close out, I wanted to say what you're looking forward to in 2021.
I haven't seen my parents since last year. So hopefully by this year we could spend the holidays together. Like I've seen my husband's side, because they're not really I don't want to say scared of COVID. Like, it's real, but we've that they're our bubble. So the kids hang out with his parents all the time. So I see them a lot. But my parents, they're just very scared of it. So we haven't seen them since the beginning of the pandemic. So I'm looking forward to hopefully spending some quality time with them soon.
Yeah, same here too. I'm just looking forward to spending more times with families and seeing friends. You know, because a year goes by. I mean, even though it feels like it went by pretty fast, people grow and things change. And I'm just looking forward to just be hugged and cuddle with people and just be happy, you know.
You know, the same thing with everyone for COVID, just to be open so we can just get back to, you know, the family gatherings and everything. And you know, I got married last year, so I'm looking to see what challenges will bring this year, because, you know, marriage ain't easy. And you know, just for the world to look out for me, man. I'm about to come out with some stuff. So, you know, I just became a fan of Vicious Swagger too. Hey.
Nice. And Stephanie?
I want more peace in 2021. That's definitely been one of my biggest focus. I've been really manifesting that towards God, to put that in the universe, because it's like you said earlier, and you touched note on it. You said, you know, it's you know, it's crazy that we, you know, to think that we can fall in love with somebody, but it is just that. It's you don't have to fall in love with somebody. You can fall in love with a friend. You can have a best friend that you really fall in love with, who they are, their charisma, who they are as a person, you know. And I think that's my biggest thing for 2021, is that I really want peace and love for the world. I truly do feel that too. Of course, you know, I can sit here and of course I have COVID. I want us to all be out of the mask. Honestly, to be honest with you, I kind of don't even want to go back to not wearing masks, because I like the fact that we're wearing masks. I think that if China's doing it, why aren't we? They were doing it way before COVID. They were doing it way before. I think that we're nasty human beings, and some people don't know how to take care of themselves, and maybe we need to protect ourselves from them. You know, that's just true. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. I think.
I love the 6 feet apart rule. I mean, that is like,
oh yeah,
yes.
like stay away from me, man. I don't even like you before, you know, like
I'm fine
but
with that.
ultimately, my ultimate biggest like message is I have a few goals that, and I'm really happy that you guys chose me out of this panel because I have a big voice and I really like to use it. You know, I encourage you to be a friend with a Black friend. I encourage you to be friends with a Mexican person if you ever, because you know, Mexican people don't just have tacos to offer. You know, they're really great people, man. Like, you know, I come from Sacramento, so there's really no air, there's no space for me to be prejudiced. You know, I've never been raised in that household as well. My mom's best friend was a Black man, you know, and she was an immigrant. So to me, I never really saw color in my household. Of course, my parents did have those situations where they believed in what society was giving them, but my parents were very, I'm gonna try you out type of people. You know, they're gonna make the judgment on who you are as a person. But I do believe, and I don't want to talk too much because I do talk a lot. I want to end it with this. Just because one Black person did you wrong doesn't mean all Black people are wrong. Just because one Black Mexican person, you know, did something to your parents doesn't mean all of them are wrong. Just because one white person did something wrong to you does not mean that all white people are wrong. And lastly, just because we're Asian, even Asian people have bad people. Especially to my Hmong culture, when I say this, even we have bad people that will rape and kill and murder and assault your family. Even we have people that, come on, you guys, we go to Hmong New Year and get shot at every year. Like, come on, let's stop acting brand new.
Yeah, especially with the Hmong women that's been murdered just recently.
I know.
What the hell?
We have problems within our own culture. So
Exactly. If you want to end prejudice, end it with your own culture first. Let's stop hating on Hmong people. I want to encourage my Hmong people to start being friends to each other. Like, man, me being an artist and putting my music and being vulnerable out there, my gosh, you guys, I've never thought that so many people would be such ugly people on the internal. You know what I'm saying? But that's not my job to fix that. And you guys shouldn't feel that either. I think our job is to just encourage people to spread love. And that's what we ultimately have to get back to, is spreading love, you know, because at the end of the day, if you don't have love, if we live in a world where we're all seeking power, but we don't realize that the most powerful thing is love. And you know, that's what's killing us right now. And I think that's why we've all got the opportunity to love out more than what we are, because we were like those little kids in the little cartoon movies who were like, I know there's something else that's not just this Hmong wall, you know. We're literally put in a box.
With that said, I just want to thank the panel, Choua, Maly, Stephanie, and Peter for being part of this panel, and Sharon for moderating. And thank you guys so much for being part of this. And to all the viewers, just remember that these are our panelists' opinion and their experience. So just make sure to respect their opinion and experience and that they're sharing. And like Stephanie said, love each other, express your experience, and don't allow anybody to tell you different, that your experience does not have any value. Sharon, you want to say something at the end?
Oh, I'm just saying, you know, the whole point is that you can't control who you fall in love with, but you can always keep your mind open to everyone around you and fall in love with your friends.
Or fall in love with your cat or your dog.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the cats won't love you back, but I mean, still fun. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys, so much.
A lot of fun. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. You guys have a good night.
You too.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. You guys have a good one. Stay awesome.
Thanks.